Um, Good evening and welcome to the unincorporated Alameda County Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee meeting. My name is Amber Lowe. I'm the Principal Civil Engineer for the Transportation Division at Public Works, and I will be hosting tonight's meeting. Okay, before we begin, let's go over a few announcements. We are conducting tonight's meeting remotely by teleconference. The teleconferencing guidelines were provided with the agenda. If you experience any technical difficulties, you may call our help desk at 510-670-5755 for assistance. And public participants will have the opportunity to provide their comments when I open the public comments for each item on the agenda. If you would like to provide comments, please raise your virtual hand and I will call on you. If you're joining us by phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9, and each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to speak. And I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, and then now let's go over tonight's agenda. We will begin by doing a roll call. Calling the meeting to order and then doing a roll call. And then next we'll move on to our public comments section, and then that's when the public may provide comments on topics that are not on tonight's agenda. We will then review the action minutes from our December meeting, followed by the presentation for this evening. And then we'll have a discussion on bike wiggle map, bike boxes, corner radius, and pedestrian ramps. And then lastly, we will take suggestions for future agenda topics before we adjourn. Okay. Okay, so the first item on the agenda was to call the meeting to order, and today is Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. I have the time at 6:04. This meeting is called to order. Agenda item number 2, roll call. Halima, could you please conduct the roll call right now?
Sharon Bohoman.
Present.
Shanita Chu.
Present.
Bruce Doogie.
Yes.
Rachel Factor. Daniel Leary.
Here.
Cindy Torres. Nikki Wente. Michael Williams. And Crystal Wang.
Here.
I saw Michael earlier.
Michael is in the audience right now. He's not promoted yet.
Oh. Somebody promote him. I know I've seen him earlier.
Yeah.
Under attendees. Oh, did he? Oh, there he goes. Okay, I just promoted him.
Okay, hi, I'm here.
Okay.
We have.
Right. I know I saw you earlier and you disappeared on us.
Our system in the office, we've been having problems with Zoom the last week, and it's been cycling through, and so I had to join from my phone and then try and join back here, and it got crisscrossed. So I'm here.
Thank you. Glad you can join us. Okay, so we have 6 members and we have a quorum, and we will be able to conduct the vote tonight. So now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comments. So if anybody from the public would like to speak on a topic that's not on tonight's agenda, please raise your virtual hand. If you are calling by phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. Okay. We don't have anybody from the public, but Juanita raised her hand.
I can talk now. I can speak. Okay, I just want to let everybody know that the United Seniors of Oakland Alameda County is having their convention on Friday, June 30th at St. Columba Catholic Church Hall in Oakland on Friday, June 30th. And the HLF, our Healthy Living Festival this year is September the 30th. And we're always looking for volunteers. So if any of you guys want to volunteer, it's going to be at the Oakland Zoo as always. I don't know why my camera's doing that. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to turn my camera off, but I'm going to be here because I don't know why it's tripping like that.
And then from the public, we also have Officer Dan Jackowitz who raised his hand.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I'm really happy to kind of listen in tonight, and thank you for all the continued hard work that this committee and everyone that is on the committee and in the public continue to contribute to traffic safety when it comes to bicycle and pedestrians. And I just want to remind everybody that CHP is here to serve in the unincorporated, whether it's enforcement or education around bicycle and pedestrian safety, and also cracking down on motorists who don't respect our bicyclists and pedestrians. So our mission is to provide the highest level of safety, service, and security to all the motoring and bicycling and walking public in this area and throughout the state, and the millions of motorists that visit our state each year. So thanks again for doing these meetings, and I'm happy to be here if need be. I might be jumping off a little bit later, but I just wanted to get that little message out there. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so we'll move on to the next item, item number 4, the approval of minutes. This is to approve the action minutes from our December BPAC meeting. And I'm going to open this up for the committee if anyone has questions or comments about the minutes. Okay, can I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
I approve the minutes and that they be placed on file for audit. I approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our from December 13th. And Halima, would you please conduct another roll call for the vote? And I see Cindy has joined us now too. So.
Sharon Boholman.
Aye.
Shanita Chu.
Yes, approve.
Bruce Doogie.
Yes.
Rachel Factor. Daniel Leary.
Aye.
Cindy Torres.
I have to abstain because I could not find them. I saw the link, but I could not get to anything. So I could not see the minutes. Sorry.
Nikki Wente. Thank you. Nikki Wente. Michael Williams.
Aye.
Crystal Wayne.
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yes, that's everyone.
Okay, I think we have 7 members present, 6 voted yes and 1 abstain. So the minutes are approved. Okay, next we're going to move on to our presentation for the evening. It's for Public Works' Strobridge Norbridge project. It's going to be presented by our director. Daniel, you have the presentation.
Hey, hang on. This is not on the agenda. Isn't this supposed to be compliant with the Brown Act, this meeting?
Yes, we added this a few days ago because we thought that
it's not online. I didn't see it online.
It's online.
It's online.
It wasn't within the 72 hours.
So let's go ahead and present and you can question that at a later time. So this is the
Tona
Strawbridge.
online?
Can anybody see my screen?
Tona?
Can everybody see my screen?
This is supposed to be a 72-hour notice. Aren't we supposed to be following the Brown Act? Can you put Tona on the panel, please?
So can everybody hear my voice? You can talk to Tona at a later time.
Well,
So
this is
a Strawbridge Northbridge intersection improvement project that was presented at the MAC last week, and the MAC requested that we bring this up to the BPAC, and because of that, we added it to the current agenda in order to make sure that we have some progress in the implementation of the project. So if you can see my screen,
I see it.
Can't see, let me know. Now, the project's objective is a couple of things. One is to improve traffic circulation in the area bounded by Castro Valley Boulevard, Strawbridge Avenue, and Northbridge Avenue. That's a strict, we call that a burger island, or some people call it the pork chop island, but it is a very narrow area where you have Wendy's and McDonald's within almost the median space. That's where this thing is being done. And it's creating connection also that enables an alternative east-west connection to Castro Valley Boulevard, so that we can have another alternative to Castro Valley Boulevard that connects the west side to the east side of Castro Valley, primarily the BART station. And this is the project elements of the project. There's Northbridge on the east side, Strawbridge on the south side, and Castro Valley Boulevard is on the north side, and the freeway is on the south side. So basically what you're seeing is that little island area there, and we're trying to improve that circulation. Currently, as you can see, Strawbridge on the west side is one way towards the freeway, and Northbridge on the other side is one way towards Castro Valley. So some of the changes we're proposing is converting these things into two lanes in either direction, so that the circulation element that I'm talking about. So hopefully, and I'm told that it used to be that way, and we're going back to what it used to be, but also making some improvement on the off-ramp and connecting the off-ramp from 580 onto Strawbridge and creating almost a new intersection. But I'll explain that as a design document at a later time. This is what was presented at the MAC and shown the various elements of the project. And as I said, the off-ramp, another element is that as you can see, I-580 off-ramp westbound on Strawbridge used to just go, you can only make right turn lane onto Northbridge, and you had this island, that concrete island that's in a way that actually prevents you from coming down onto Strawbridge. So we're making that change, and like I said, I will explain that better at a later time. But I just want you to have an idea what the scope of this project is. And another one is, as you can see, there is this little island where we're converting Northbridge Avenue, which is right now. When you get to that little nose, it becomes one way in towards Castro Valley. So you have no access to go towards BART at the current time. So we are removing that little nose and shaping it so that we can actually have that connection towards the BART station. Now, this is what I wanted to kind of show you. This is the layout that we have right now. So you can see the Strawbridge side on the western part is you're gonna have a one-way down towards the freeway, and you have two lanes coming up towards Castro Valley with one center lane making both left and right and straight through to John Drive, and a right turn lane. And that's coming from the freeway, the off-ramp, and the new intersection that I'm showing right there in the middle. And you see the crosswalk that has been shifted down so that we can adjust based on the reconfiguration of the island itself. So on the other side, as you can see, you have on the Northbridge side, which is the eastern portion, you have a right turn lane, you have a class 2 bike lane that comes in at the intersection, and another going center and left turn lane towards Stanton Avenue at the center, and a one-way down towards what I would call a southbound lane from Castro Valley Boulevard going towards Northbridge, and a class 2 bike lane next to it. So when I show you the typical section, you can see how that configuration works. So one of the things that you will see is we have modified the island, as you can see the green dotted bike lane indicators are where you're crossing the intersection. If you look at that, the green dotted one on the bottom side ends at the new nose right there. The old nose where the crosswalk used to be, you can see how much of that area we're removing. By removing that and widening it, we're creating an opportunity for the lanes to be configured so that we can have actually a class 2 bike lane all the way to the beginning of the project, as well as connect the eastbound or southbound lane all the way towards Northbridge to BART. Right now, you cannot make that move. Right now, you cannot go to BART from Northbridge coming down on Castro Valley Boulevard, because right there, Northbridge or Stanton is actually northbound one way. So that's the shift that we're making. And I think that will be more clearer to see. So I want you to pay attention to this one detail here. This project proposes a class 2 bike lane on Strawbridge, on the Northbridge side, that basically connects you on both sides all the way to the BART station. And that's important because there has been some discussion by people as to that's not what the bike ped master plan called for, and various other arguments. So I'm going to make the case so that for all of you understand. Right now, if you're coming on Castro Valley Boulevard, you can go across Strawbridge and you get to the bike lane. You can make a right turn lane and go all the way through to BART without crossing any line or any other street, anything else. You have direct access from Castro Valley Boulevard all the way to BART station. Or coming up on the other direction, you can come up from BART station, come to Northbridge all the way, and you have the box right there at the intersection, the bike box. You can make left, right, or through right there at that intersection. So this is, in our judgment, a very efficient way of facilitating bike movement at that intersection. So this is the configuration. The whole purpose is how can we facilitate multiple movement within this island area so that we can allow people to make an easier connection between Castro Valley all the way to BART and Castro Valley all the way to the freeway entrance. And this little piece between, I don't know if anybody has been there, but I can tell you it's that short distance right there between the two intersections, that is Strawbridge and Northbridge on Castro Valley Boulevard. You can see there's multi-lanes out there you have to make. That thing is extremely congested. It's always having issues. And so this movement is supposed to relieve some of the pressure on that little portion of the island. So right now, somebody, instead of going all the way across, can make the right turn on Strawbridge. And if they make past Strawbridge, they could also make another right turn, which they used to not be able to do on Northbridge. And if Castro Valley is congested further up, you can actually take Northbridge to go bypass the entire business district and go towards BART or Redwood Road on the other end. So that's the value of this circulation element. And the project is limited basically from the screen, as you can see at the top right-hand corner where you see the line work ends. That's where the project begins there on Strawbridge. And on the bottom side where you see the chevron size below the freeway, that's the project. So the project limit itself is extremely highly focused into this circulation. So I wanted you to kind of see that. And I will also bring what some of the discussions that people have brought about regarding this project would be. And then here is what I would like to kind of visualize. I know that intersection is very difficult to visualize. On the right-hand side, you see the existing street view of the Northbridge intersection at Castro Valley Boulevard. And as you can see, you have a right turn lane, you have a straight through lane, and a left turn lane. And you have a very small sidewalk area on either side of this intersection. So if you want to look at it in a cross section next to it on the left-hand side, you can see the same configuration, and you can see the lane width and everything else that is existing. Below it, what was being proposed. As you can see below it, in the top portion existing, there's no bike lane, there's no nothing. So we're adding bike lane on both sides, and we're providing that bike movement separated on either side so that you have the actual directional bike lane available to bikers all the time. So this is what is existing versus proposed look like in a cross-sectional view. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you as you see. That's trying to explain what it looks like. And then if you look at on the Staten side, on the Strawberry side, I mean, then coming down, existing, as you can see, is one way coming down toward the freeway. And you can see it on the cross section. It has basically bike lanes. I mean, no bike lanes, sidewalks and parking, and 2 lanes coming down towards the freeway. But there's really not much of a change other than we are actually converting one of the one-way into a different direction, 2 of the lanes into a different direction on the proposed improvement. So right now, this one-way street southbound has become a 2-way street, both southbound and northbound. That's what this is basically showing you in terms of the typical section. So hopefully that makes sense, and I can always go back and explain if you guys have questions later on. Now, this is where some of the big debate people have brought about, saying the bike paid master plan, which as you can see, the page from the bike paid master plan and the little circular area is blown up right there in the dark black box right there is an intersection. And then you can see that black box is also pointing down at that greenish dotted line is what used to be called proposed. It's about 300 feet long, and the bike paid master plan called for a class 1 facility just in that area. And I just want you to understand something. When this bike paid master plan was proposed, it actually did not anticipate the proposed project we're looking at. So it was looking at the one-way direction on the Northbridge side. So it was not looking at a 2-way direction. So at that time, the idea was, it seems to me, that by putting a class 1, a short class 1 facility, which means you can have 2-way bike facility out there, you might be able to come in and connect to Northbridge and then come across and go on to Northbridge all the way to Bart, if that was the case. So people were really complaining that, oh, this proposed project is violating the bike paid master plan, it's violating complete street, and violating all these other stuff. No, it was not violating. That was first of all, it's a plan. It's a plan that needs to be evaluated as projects get developed. When we develop this project, it's very clear to us that providing 2-way directional class 2 bike lane is a lot more safer for bicyclists to be, they don't have to cross multiple lanes of traffic. They don't have to do any other necessary movement. They can come and go in a unidirectional fashion. So the need for that very short 300 feet, 400 feet class 1 was eliminated because of the nature of the project that we have that changed the directional movement of the vehicles. The circulation has substantially changed than what was being proposed during the time this plan was being developed. So I just want you to see the point. Hopefully you guys are understanding this, because if you're not involved in it, it's kind of difficult to visualize. But a lot of people make a big deal about, oh, how come you're not using the bike paid master plan? It's calling for a class 1. Basically, this project renders the class 1 as unnecessary. The 300 feet class 1 facility unnecessary because we offer you a class 2 on both sides. That does not exist at this time. Remember, at this time, there's no bike lane in this area. So we're providing you 2 Class 2 facilities on either side, rather than provide you one where you have to cross. Somebody riding eastbound to Castro Valley, in the old days, you would have to cross Northbridge and then get into the Class 1. But now you don't have to cross Northbridge. You could actually make a right turn right there and come straight through to go to the BART station. So that's the value add that this project is bringing. So it was not just a random disregard of some plan or not consideration. It actually is a safe design that we are incorporating into the project, consistent with our desire to have a safe connectivity of bike lanes throughout the county. So this is what the biggest argument that you're going to hear from people is, oh, you're not following the bike paid master plan. The bike paid master plan is a guiding document. It's not a design document. As we designed it, we found the safest way to kind of accomplish our objective is to actually do what we're proposing. So that's where we are. So the schedule for this project is basically we've done, it's been going on for a while. And the reason I went back to the MAC last time was because according to the previous presentation, which we've done twice, to the Castro Valley MAC, that we didn't anticipate that we had to do a neg deck document for this project. So our environmental consultant determined that we actually had to do a neg deck document. It's not categorically exempt. So initially we thought it was exempt, so we were anticipating to be in construction by now. But because of that change, the time shifted, so I wanted to kind of inform the MAC people that's what happened. So this is where we are. Construction hopefully will begin in fall of this year, and hopefully that area will work out for the community in terms of circulation. This project was initiated primarily with some of the MAC members and others asking what can be done to facilitate or improve the circulation of that area. And this is one of the designs that we wanted to try. So that's basically what I wanted to present to you, and any feedback, any questions that you may have, I'll be happy to entertain. And the whole discussion, like I told you, is the big hoopla was about, how come we're not using this, how come we're not building this 300 feet long Class 1 when, at the time this was done when the street was one way. Now it's two way with either side was a Class 2 bike lane. It really renders the call for a Class 1 unnecessary. So that's what this project is all about, and I'll be happy to answer any question you might have. You can refer me to a slide that you want to be pointed, and I will do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. I see there are several hands up from the committee members. I'll call on you in the order that I saw the hands go up. Bruce, you put your hand down. Did you still wish to speak?
Yeah, I just want to explain, clarify that this presentation, when it was presented to the MAC, actually showed a Sharrow, which is a Class 3 in the, I guess that's the easterly direction. So it's just fantastic to see the update. I sure appreciate it. It's a massive improvement. If we can't have the Class 1, then I noticed that the lanes are 11 feet, 12 feet, and 11 feet for travel lanes, and the bike lanes are 6 feet. So I'm wondering if we can take a little bit of space out of those car lanes to make that the bike lanes a little wider. But this is a huge improvement just from Monday. There's no way you could have had this up within 72 hours to satisfy the Brown Act, because the meeting, the MAC meeting didn't end till after 6 p.m. on Monday, which is less than 72 hours. I appreciate the bike box as well. I think that's a nice addition. I want to know, is there going to be a bicycle traffic light? So the things that I would like to see is wider bike lanes, narrower car lanes, and a bicycle traffic light. Is there going to be something for bikes?
Yeah, I'll check with the project engineer.
I'll answer some of these things. First of all, this drawing here that you're seeing is an actual drawing from the design. What was presented to the MAC was the same thing that was presented in a schematic or aerial view of what, it's just basic conceptual stuff. There was nothing unique. This drawing that you're seeing was always there. The point is, the class, the Cheryl that Bruce is talking about is from where the new nose begins and ends at the end. There's about, I would say, a couple of 100 feet long, or 3 to 500 feet, maybe, that curve area. That always has been a class 2. We just did not show it in the aerial map because we did not see it as a controversial item for us. So the whole idea is this project, as you see it, is what the agency wanted to implement. And there was a large, reaction without necessarily understanding what was being proposed to complain about it. Now, this is not, it doesn't take us 72 hours or 48 hours or whatever timeline you mentioned. This is what has been proposed. The aerial that was presented to the MAC is just that. It's an aerial schematic. It's not a design document. What you're seeing here is actually from our CAD drawings in a form of design. So I just want you to know there's nothing shady about how this thing was done or presented, timeline and all that stuff. No. So
but obviously you can understand the excitement because you showed a Shero at the public meeting. So, which is totally, not appropriate. So that's why the 72 hours has to do with the Brown Act. It has nothing to do with your design. It has to do with the meeting that we're in right now. So you didn't comply
anyway,
with Brown Act. So
go ahead, Amber.
Okay. Bruce, to address your other questions, I will check with the project engineer about the bike traffic light, and then also if we can allocate a little bit more width to the bike lane from the travel lanes. I'm assuming that with the bike box and everything there, that there will be bike detection. So you're asking about the bike signal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do you have any additional comment, or I'll go to the next?
That's good, thank you. The only other comment is somebody kept muting me unnecessarily, which I found also a violation of the Brown Act. So I wish they wouldn't do that, whoever that was.
Next hand that I saw go up was Dan Leary.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the presentation, and this slide right here is a really good slide to use for my comments. So one thing about this I think will be a real benefit to the community is, about 20, 25 years ago, there was a big trend where a lot of cities were changing their roads into like these one-way couplets. We take a street that has two-way traffic, and they were converting them into these 3-lane arterials, which felt a lot like a freeway. And that's always how this, I don't live in Castro Valley, but this, whenever I come over to this area, these two streets always felt to me like an extension of the freeway, because you have these 3 one-way lanes going in and 3 one-way lanes going out. So it's almost like the freeway is encroaching into the community, so the benefit's going to be rather significant to recapture this area as part of the neighborhood, to have a two-way facility. That's going to really make a big difference, I feel. And maybe even as part of a future project, you can see that little piece of Stanton, it's called Stanton, that goes sort of behind McDonald's. That could even be either reconfigured in the future or maybe even eliminated if there's different kind of land uses that could be, to make this more of a community area, a better for the neighborhood. I know for now, that's kind of part of there's some really funky, roadway pathways in here that we're kind of left with from before, but converting these two streets into two-way connectors will be really nice. And also, any chance we have, I appreciate that there's some crossings. I see a crossing. I know it was already there, but the crossing, I'll say on the Norbridge side, and any chance we have to add crossings will make it feel even more pedestrian and community friendly. Same thing on Strobridge. I don't see another opportunity down towards McDonald, but things like that will really make it feel more, it'll slow people down. The other thing I wanted to mention about the whole thing about the bike lane, yeah, obviously we wouldn't want to have a little piece of class 1 between 2 long segments of class 2, especially if this is going to become a 2-way facility. It definitely makes sense to have continuity. It's probably one of the top factors we want to look at in a bike facility. But I do like the idea. I heard from Mr. Doogie, maybe a little bit more width on the bike lanes if possible. Let's go this is going to be really a great change. Let's go the distance. Let's really make it even that much better. And then, yeah, the thing about the signals, the bike box, it's more of a detector situation. And these will probably be, I think, Amber, this will be camera, video detection on this intersection.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll detect, I'm sure as part of the final design, they'll detect the bike in that zone. It can identify people in that area. I think that there wouldn't be a separate, there might be even like there wouldn't be a lead lag, but there would be a way for the signals to identify that if there's bicycles in there. But I would be interested in seeing how that signal timing works. That might be a real interesting analysis. And so one question is, are they gonna do some maybe some traffic modeling or analysis? I'd be curious to see what would happen if that road was eliminated in the future and open up that space in there where what's that Fidelity, that one land use? I forget what it's called.
Are you talking about the little piece where you come off 580?
Yeah, the short road. It's called, Synergy Financial Services, that one standalone building, and you got the Stanton Avenue. Yeah. That's actually a very large area. And and maybe in the future, if they could reconfigure that off-ramp even for more, and you've already recaptured some space in there. This is valuable real estate, that could become some great land use, maybe, I don't know, a park or could be some unnecessary asphalt in there. You see the angled piece of Stanton?
Yeah, that's something that, we'll probably explore in the future. Right now,
you have a great entry parkway with some gateway features or something. I mean, that'd be a great thing for the future, maybe, and reconfigure that off ramp a little bit more. So
yeah,
that's acres and acres of space.
It's Caltrans.
Is it all Caltrans?
Oh yeah, it's entirely the area you're talking about, Caltrans property right away. So
all right,
but one of the things that it could potentially, if you talk about the future, the whole Burger Island could become something else. So
yeah, San Jose is doing the same thing, getting rid of these one-way couplets all over town that were really impacting the city in a negative way. So I think this is a good step forward.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a lot safer, it's a lot better, and that little piece that you mentioned has always been one of the Achilles heels there. So we'll have to explore what futures exist for that little piece. So that's also will be another community process on how that should be managed. So thank you.
Yeah. When I was talking to the project engineer earlier, she mentioned the consultant said that the signal timing does take into consideration the bicycle movements, but I forgot exactly what it was. But yeah, that bike box there, they took that into account. Okay. We'll go to our next committee member who raised her hand. Crystal, I saw your hand up after Dan.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I just have a quick question for clarification. Are there going to be any striping changes along Castro Valley Boulevard west of Stanton? Or I guess in this graphic, it'd be south of Stanton, or yeah, south
on the bottom side. Yeah. On the bottom side.
So one of the things that happens, as you can see on the Staten, on the other side, there's going to be an island, some configuration of that intersection, that signal. And Dan is right, this intersection is extremely complex. So it'd be interesting how our traffic engineers really going to be simulating this, but they have developed something. These both intersections are very complex. So we're making that, right now you could not make a left turn onto Northbridge anyway. So that's, we have to add a left turn on Castro Valley westbound. That's one of the relief, hopefully, in this little piece in between that that could relieve that congestion, because that little piece is where a lot of the congestion and movement is. So, but I don't know, did I answer your question, or was that something?
Yeah, pretty much. I was just curious if anything was going to happen in that tiny section of Castro Valley Boulevard, any striping.
Yeah, they will add an island and make a separate left turn onto Northbridge so that people can go. Now, I don't know if that would help much with traffic, because those folks in between Redwood Road and this, those are the folks that might benefit from making that movement towards BART. And to some degree, I think it will relieve that little middle portion, I think, from being over congested the way it is right now.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Sharon, I saw your hand up for a moment. Did you still have any questions?
Well, I did have a question, but I wasn't. I think I may have figured it out. I just was wondering if Strobridge was going to remain closed to through traffic at Gary Drive. And I'm figuring it probably is. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, that this project does not extend that far. As you can see, it stops right there at under the freeway where you make the left turn into 580. So that's a different issue, probably a different community process. As of now, because of this project, nothing changes down there.
Thank you, Sharon. And Chonita, did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I did. I was, yeah, I didn't see a lot of crosswalks, or I didn't see a lot of walking area for pedestrians. But then again, I'm looking at the aerial view and it's not a lot around there for pedestrians. So it's not that big of a deal for me.
This area that's you see in those specks that are all around, that's actually a pedestrian area.
Which one?
Widen. Daniel, can you point to it with your cursor? Then you around.
Maybe we can do this. So you can, if you look at the island itself, there's a dark line that goes around it, and then there's a curve right there outside. All this dotted, it looks like that's concrete. That's all walkway. You can walk all around the island. Now you can cross. You can cross at these dark spot, the dark crossing that you see on both the Northbridge and on the Strobridge side. Of course, you can also cross at Castro Valley. So the distance between, for example, the crosswalk at Castro Valley and the Northbridge one down here is about 300 feet, 200 feet. So it's not very far in terms of people walking to cross on either direction. So. But that's a good point. In fact, one of the things that we did is we moved the crosswalk so that they could actually be located in a safer area than where they are right now.
Thank you.
I see some more hands raised. Bruce, you want to speak again? It's going to be Bruce, Dan, and then Cindy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's an opportunity to put some trees in some of these walkways areas, maybe Northbridge, maybe in the island itself, maybe Strobridge as well. And then the other thing that I'm concerned about is since this left-hand turn on Castro Valley Boulevard, I guess that's westbound, how is that going to affect the planned bike lanes that are supposed to occur on Castro Valley Boulevard? Because you guys already added that little stretch right beyond Stanton, so it's great that you added that a little stretch of bike lane, but there's presently not, I don't think, a bike lane prior to the intersection, but there's a plan for all of Castro Valley to have bike lanes. So we want to make sure we protect for that.
Yeah. So these, future projects could change current design. So this area most likely will have another major project from here all the way to where the previous Castro Valley Boulevard project happened. So when that project takes place, that this could be modified depending on however the design parameters are. So at this time, this option is the most beneficial one that we can accomplish.
Well, I think it's beneficial for the drivers, but it kind of sets a precedent that makes it a little more difficult. Anytime you give, the drivers something, it's really hard to take it away, as you well know. And so I'm a little worried about that. So.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. We kept the trees off of this because just for simplicity, but I think we do have some green infrastructure plan for that, some bioretention, like in the large gray areas there. Okay. Dan?
Yes. It is a small geometry suggestion here. I still kind of focus on that little cut through road, which is a piece of Stanton that's moving kind of up at an angle towards that new crosswalk. Looks like there might be opportunity to just at the end of it, if it can be realigned, so it's addressing the intersection more at a 90. I see a potential for cars like, aggressively, like, because it's such a flat angle to take that corner. If they see an opening, to take it fast. And with the crosswalk there, I just wanted, because just a little bit of a jog there would kind of force the cars to straighten up to the intersection before they turn left across that crosswalk. Just something to look at there.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, because like I said, that little piece is the one that at least I've been struggling with. So any suggestion you have in that area, that'd be good. It could even be you don't even have to do construction of it, but maybe
just the more we can make it into a grid rather than off ramp. It feels like an off ramp, but it's coming in an angle. People tend to want to drive really fast, but if it can be more like a square, I know that'd be impossible, but less of an angle would help, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look at that. I mean, we've explored possibilities, but we kind of keep scratching our head. Nothing came up, but maybe I'm thinking more if there's a way to kind of stripe this thing and maybe kind of create some dead zones in there. We'll see. All right, next.
Thanks. Cindy?
Hi, I'm wondering if the crosswalks that are going to the island, will there be, I always forget what they're called, but the flasher lights that can be turned on? And also wondering about possible seating in these areas, the gray area. I know that there's discussion with AC Transit about them removing all of their bus, not the stops, but the shelters and seating. And so as a pedestrian, there's a lot, on Castro Valley Boulevard, there's a lot of seating with the public seating, but in many areas there isn't. And if you walk long distances, it's far and few between. So I would like to see that considered in these plans and future plans as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
Yeah, I just want to maybe second what Dan was saying about I'm a little worried about this. Now we have this option to go down Norbridge, in the opposite direction as it is now on a bicycle, but then we have to cross this little extension of Stanton. So that kind of looks like a collision course, a bicycle and a car almost head on. So that is a worry, like if you were a cyclist and is there not planned to be a stop there? Because, a stop sign would help.
I think the other one we put a stop. It's not shown here, but in the others.
Yeah, there will be a stop. That's
on the photo. It shows a stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop. Yeah. That layer must have been off.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will have, I mean, of course, you can't have it just drive through without any. That's a controlled intersection. In fact, at the MAC, I indicated if some improvement was going to happen. By the way, Dan, the other issue was that across the street from that location, as you see the lumber yard and all that stuff, that could become improved and this thing could become access way. So it is even possible that somebody might continue that into a subdivision type or any kind of improvement into the.
Oh, and the miniature golf course too. That'd be one huge parcel. That's going to happen.
So if that happens, and then you know, that's like you said, that's prime real estate. So this area could become an access way. So there are people who think differently, but I would say for right now, that intersection, controlling the movement, you know, drivers are going to make attempts to make the illegal left turn around that nose to go to, even though it says right turn only. So you're going to have all kind of, people who will be doing illegal stuff. So we're trying to anticipate those. And maybe one way of doing it is, I think, narrowing down the lane substantially using some type of striping. So we'll see. We'll look at a little more detail, but there will be a controlled intersection. There will be a stop sign right there at that intersection.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Cindy?
For Cindy, I think that green area that you see right here, that is the green infrastructure right there at the nose. The side of the concrete itself is most likely pervious concrete. So if there are opportunities, and I think most likely will be in coordination with the businesses there, having benches would be a good idea, and we will explore that possibility.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And will there be flashing lights for those crosswalks?
I think I believe so, but we'll see. But one of the things that at this moment, there's not a lot of pedestrian movement in these areas, as you know. So we haven't seen a lot of use of pedestrians because the people coming there usually come in to drive through and get their sandwiches and leave. So we haven't seen a lot of pedestrians out there. So we will evaluate it further, but at this time, we will explore putting those flashing lights.
Yeah, for that left turn onto Northbridge, we're going to continue to evaluate and see, find out what the best option is for that. Maybe like delineators would help tighten it. Okay, I don't see any more hands up on the committee side, so I'm going to go to public, and we have a hand up from Roy. Halima, can you bring Roy in?
There we go. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Amber. Sorry, firstly, I'm at my kids' high school meet at the high school track meet, so my apologies if there's background noise. Just a couple of things. I mean, a great outcome. I really like the design, like Bruce said. It's kind of different than the one that was presented to the MAC on Monday. I think if you would, because the one that you presented on Monday didn't have this view with the green shading and the bike box, and it did show a sharrow, that particular picture. I don't think any of the MAC members really could make sense of where the bike lanes were on Monday, to be honest. And I think if we had had this picture on Monday, it would have made it a lot easier to explain, both to them and to those of us of the public that were there. So I think a good outcome. I'm not quite sure of the, process to get there, to be honest, since Monday, with it kind of coming up at short notice on the agenda, which, incidentally, I think at the beginning, Amber, you read the agenda out and displayed it. And I don't remember this item being on the agenda that you displayed or read out. So I'm not quite sure how you can claim it's on the agenda if it wasn't actually on the one you displayed and read through. But anyway, I guess a couple of things I'd ask you to look at in the design. One is the exits and entrances into the island, because all of the fast food places actually have drive-throughs. And today, I think there's a lot of traffic goes in from the Strobridge side because it's one way, they use the left-hand lane. And those drive-throughs, there's a lot of vehicles and they back up onto the street. So the traffic actually comes out onto Strobridge and backs up on Strobridge waiting to turn in. I'm just wondering how that is going to work, because now that left turn has to cross the oncoming traffic, or is there going to be a change to make traffic go in from the Norbridge side, but traffic is lined up out on the street. So I'm just kind of wondering how that is going to work. Second is this not only is a bike route down to Bart, in fact, it goes all the way through to the library, which is even better. But what I'm wondering is how do we connect it to the west, particularly to John Drive, where there is a fantastic bike lane all the way down to San Leandro on John Drive. But I'm wondering, how would a cyclist coming out on John Drive safely get out onto Castro Valley Boulevard by making a left and then make this right turn onto Norbridge to keep going? I think if we could connect those, you've got like even 4.5 miles of bike lane, which is, really, really good. And connecting them and keeping them continuous, is really important. Thank you.
Hey, Amber, this is Dan Jackwitz. Did I miss a question? I'm sorry.
No, you may have heard me call Dan Leary, maybe. I don't know. No, okay. You didn't miss a question.
Thank you.
I think that's all the comments and questions that we have on this. Thank you, Daniel, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda now. The last time we met, we had some suggestions from Bruce. I think these all came from Bruce actually, for bike wiggle maps, bike boxes, corner radius, and pedestrian ramps. I don't know, Bruce, do you want to speak on like your suggestions on the wiggle maps, or
yeah,
something particular?
Yeah, so for wiggles, there's this actually came from one of the officers from the sheriff's office, and he used to live in San Francisco, and they used to have these wiggles. And I think their maps were mostly to avoid hills in San Francisco. So to get from point A to point B, they actually developed, bike maps or bike paths, and so I've actually developed a couple of wiggles, since I've been in Castro Valley. And so, for example, one of my favorite wiggles is actually from the high school. I live near the high school, to the Japanese Garden and beyond, because that takes you into downtown Hayward. And it's a really great wiggle. It's a very low stress wiggle, way to get there. And another one would include just getting out to, most people don't know that there's a way to cross without a lot of cars. Earl Warren Park has a pedestrian bridge that crosses the creek there. And so otherwise you have to go on to Higher, or you have to go down to Castro Valley Boulevard. And so I use that wiggle to get to, Independent Elementary, right there where, Lana Carlos was killed. And so I use that wiggle a lot, and that gets you into, you don't have to just go to the elementary school. And then there's a number of wiggles. And so I thought we could actually put something together, because I think this is part of Public Works, is education as part of the thing. And so I thought maybe we could put together some kind of, publication, even if it's not in paper, something even online to show wiggles, basically, workarounds, basically. So that was the idea of wiggles.
That sounds good. I think we'd be open to that. We can talk about it some more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty clever.
And then bike boxes.
Oh, Dan wants to.
Oh, Dan, go ahead.
I actually had not heard that term before, Mr. Doogie, but I have a great wiggle in my town, because if you live somewhere long enough, you find these ways to get on a bike from where I live into downtown Livermore. There's no way to get there like a car would go. So there's these streets I know of that are ways to cross over the busy streets, and there's a bike boulevard that's parallel with the busy road. So these are things you would only know if you tried many different routes and you lived there for a really long time. And after a while, you kind of find, I guess that's what they call it. I haven't heard this term, wiggle route. It's not the direct straight like as a car would go, but you find that parallel street that's really convenient. You cross over another parallel street. And I see here you're describing San Francisco has it more formalized.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's again, something that I was introduced to by, I'm trying to remember the office, Officer Aulis. Yeah, and he said that they had all these wiggles, I think mostly to avoid the hills, but I said, oh, I have a couple of wiggles. I promised him some wiggles, and I never actually gave him some wiggles, but yeah, there's a few others around here as well, I think. And you know, I take that wiggle, that Japanese garden wiggle all the way to Costco. I go to Costco on my bike, and I even can buy a 50-pound sack of flour, and I take it home, and I take that wiggle. Unfortunately, I have to, you know, I have to take some other streets that aren't so pleasant, but it's not bad actually. It's pretty low stress to Costco. It's a little more stressful to some of the other places I go.
Do any committee members have any comments on any other comments on wiggle maps? I mean, okay, we'll go to the next one then. Bike boxes.
Yeah, so bike boxes, you know, if you look at the climate action plan, I don't know how many people have looked at the climate action plan, but, you know, we all should have read it, and also the bike plan. There's a transportation 2, T2. So the biggest portion in the climate action plan, 60% of our emissions come from cars. And so, you know, 60% of the solutions are having to deal with cars, and a lot of them are to you know, promote mode shift. And so quite a few of them are having to do with walking and cycling. So, you know, T2, which is a target, they say right here, identify and, criteria. So this is for public works. This is a long-term 5 to 10 year timetable thing. Create criteria for the installation of bicycle boxes and bicycle priority signals at bicycle route major intersections, construct where appropriate. And then the actual performance indicator is percentage of bike route major street intersections with bike boxes and or bicycle priority signals. So, you know, I've encountered a few places where I already get out of the bike lane in advance, just like a bike box, like northbound on Matix, for example. You know, and then these bike lanes end in the intersection, and we never do that for cars. For drivers, we don't do that. We don't end a lane in the intersection, and then people frantically have to figure out what to do. But we do that for cyclists. And so there needs to be a bike lane, first of all, on Matix, and I think that's in the plan. But anyway, in the interim, we should have a bike box there so that you know, cyclists can get in front of cars, so that they can go through the intersection and go straight and through the intersection. And the same thing for even a much worse condition is on northbound Redwood, right at Castro Valley Boulevard. So just south of Castro Valley Boulevard, you're heading north. And again, it's the bike lane is actually fairly narrow right before you lose it. And then the lane is extremely narrow. There's no way to share that lane. And every time I've tried to, I see really veteran cyclists, and they jump on the sidewalk right there. They jump, they don't even bother to fight with the cars. And the worst part is when you take off at the same time, there's a line of cars, you can't merge in. It's impossible. We actually took Nate Miley on a bicycle ride, his first ride with us. He's been on several now, and his first ride, we took him on that northbound part, and we went straight through, and he saw firsthand where we had to fight with these cars, and these people are honking and yelling at us for taking the lane. You know, once we got across, but you have to actually already know that in advance, that you need to take the lane, and then you have to take it. And so you know, taking the lane from a 4,000-pound car is not very fun, especially when they accelerate off at high speed and you cannot keep up with them. So that's another maybe a good place for a bike box. Those are the two that I had in mind. And I was really surprised to see this bike box in this new design on Norbridge. So maybe that's another, you know, good application.
Thank you for your suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I just want to add to what you said there, Bruce. You know, sometimes we've seen in communities where the bike box is good if people are, like you said, are going straight, but a lot of times they prefer the 2-stage queue box, right? If they're going to be heavier turning movements, where they can get through the intersection and have that spot outside the travel way, but they can get a head start making the left turn, right? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so those are become popular too, because it's easier too. The signal can identify those people. You know, you can have the video detection can find the person so that they get through the intersection, but then they wait and they're kind of in front of the people as if they want to turn left, the people are behind them on the side street. And then the signal knows they're there and they get the first shot across. So that's kind of a different version of the queue box that you're talking, the bike box that you're talking about. I'm seeing more of those lately.
Yeah, I guess that falls under the, I guess, priority signal that they're talking about in the climate action plan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just don't have any of that stuff. And so it would be really helpful. You know, we do that pedestrian, you know, what's it called? Let them go first. So.
Thank you for your suggestions and comments on the bike boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, item 60 is corner radius and pedestrian ramps. I think originally last time you like they were separate suggestions, but I decided just to combine them, you know, because they kind of go together. So, did you have some feedback on those items?
Yeah, so you know, we should be following the board approved you know, bike plan. And so the bike plan has an appendix E, and in the appendix E, they actually talk about, you know, I think it's actually from NACTO. It looks like it's lifted from NACTO, but it's guidance on how to do corners. And all of our corners in all of unincorporated are super large radius corners, even in low speed or you know, not very well traveled you know, residential streets. And so it really encourages high speed, and especially when they come off of like Redwood Road. I've experienced where, you know, people will pass me on Redwood Road, going on Redwood Road, and they'll pass me and they'll turn right in front of me and take this you know, right-hand turn right in front of me at high speed. And it's because they can. And you know, because our corners aren't very they're very they allow that. And so and also the large radius makes it really hard to put in the double ped ramps, which are also very strongly suggested in the bike plan, and for good reason. So those, you know, having two gets rid of the, like when a driver sees somebody standing on a single ramp, they don't know which way this person, even which street the person wants to cross. And it also sets the pedestrian further back and out of sight. so that drivers don't even stop for them. And it also puts it forces the pedestrian to be in the street longer, right? Because they have a longer distance to cross. So it's the same concept for these bulb outs. And we've done quite a few bulb outs where we've put the crosswalk in the absolute worst possible place. So we've done that on Lake Chabot and I forgot the other one. The last intersection before you get to the park, very poorly done. We could have saved a lot of money, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, however much it cost to put in the bulb out, just by sharpening the corner and putting in two properly, ped ramps. And it's the same thing on Redwood and the intersection that goes up to the school, the adult school. Again, I forgot the name of that one. But it's the same thing. So these bulb outs, we went through all this effort to produce these bulb outs, and then we put the crosswalk right in the middle of the bulb out, and it was a single ramp, and you can't even, it actually pushes the pedestrians so far to the right when you're heading north on Redwood, you can't even see the pedestrian through the car if there's a car stop there. So I think sharpening these radiuses, and we've just done a whole bunch of pedestrian ramps all throughout Castro Valley, and it's so sad because now we're stuck with them, and this infrastructure that we do lasts for decades because we don't have the money to just keep replacing stuff, and so every time we do something, it lasts for decades, and so it's really, really. I was really frustrated to see those go in, and they were so large. There were a bunch of them on Somerset and around the school and all over the place, and they just encourage people to drive fast. So I would like to see some changes. Yeah, so we should talk about a process or some design philosophies or whatever.
I know which appendix you're talking about in the bike ped master plan. Like it describes the design vehicles that we use. We follow design standards when we put in these ped ramps. So some of these streets that are major streets, they have larger vehicles that we're supposed to use in the design. So that's probably what dictated the standard that we were using to design those radiuses.
Yeah, but clearly there's something wrong because so in the appendix they address that turning radius from larger vehicles, and they talk about it. So sometimes you can use the entire width of both sides, so of the lane you're exiting and the lane that you're entering, and sometimes you should do both sides on one and the other. So anyway, there's different ways to satisfy some of the radius. That you're talking about, but it's pretty obvious that whatever we did, whatever analysis was done 50 years ago, we just rubber stamped it everywhere. And so now we have these high-speed corners all over the unincorporated area. So there are ways to sharpen the ramps, obviously, because other people do it. I mean, so if other people are able to do it, then surely we can do the same. That's the thing.
We do check also the fire truck turning templates too, because we're required to do that for the design. So sometimes depending on the angles too, not all intersections we have 90-degree angles. So sometimes they can't make the turn, and then we have to make the radius larger.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes the radius is larger when the angle is on the other side. So like the intersection of Marshall and Omega, right? That right at the corner of the school, that could be a much sharper radius. But that's a massive radius. It's just huge, and so that's the kind of thing that we could have sharpened, and you could even give some property back to the school, and that would pull the crosswalk a little further north, so people wouldn't be blocking the crosswalk, because they block the crosswalk when they are driving northbound on Marshall, because they want to see to the left so that they don't hit anybody, and they can't see until they just drive right up until they can see, and that's right over the crosswalk. And another thing that the bike plan suggests, if you cannot sharpen it because of these radiuses, you can put those aprons. They're called, I forgot what they're called, truck aprons or something like that. And so it's kind of like a little rampy, you know, it's like a rolled curb basically. And so, so it still will discourage most people from going over it, but it's mountable by trucks. And so that could be another thing that we could do to help. Okay. It's all in the bike plan.
Okay. Thank you for those suggestions. Dan, I saw your hand up if you still want to speak. And then
oh, just something real quick. I was just adding to what Bruce just said. This isn't a county intersection, but there's one intersection I've seen when I biked home, and it exaggerates what you're describing, where the radius is so large, it's probably a 60 or maybe a 75 foot, it's a transition to Caltrans. And even if you make eye contact with the person, the look on their face is, I can't stop, I have to go fast. You can see they want to slow down for you, but the radius is so large, they feel like they have to just go around that corner. It's like, it really does have an effect on the way people drive. So you're right, of course. The one thing I want to point out is tight radius, very good for pedestrians and horrible for drainage, because what happens is the corners, the radius goes from being like 32 feet long to say 45 feet long. And so you got that much more distance to travel with the same amount of fall. So you end up having to add a lot of underground piping. And so we are seeing a lot of these radius you're describing on the books that are going to be happening all around this part of the East Bay. And it's happening. I think if you're patient, you'll start seeing this all over. But one challenge they're finding is the costs. And of course, construction costs are going up. And then you have to put catch basins whenever you make these corners, like a 10-foot radius or a 15-foot radius, but it used to be a 35 radius. You always end up with a low point. So you got to put, and those pipes cost so much money to put in, and traffic impacts. And so that's the challenge. But I think if you pay attention, you'll see it's happening, what you're describing, because it is a good thing.
Michael?
Yes. So it's funny that we're spending a fair amount of time talking about this, and rightly so. I was going to bring this up at the December meeting, and we got like right at the end, there were like 3 minutes left, and I was going to suggest something, and I was like, oh, I'll just let it sit. But like after tonight, it's like, clearly, I think one of the things that we need to think about, and I don't know how we'll do it as a, one of the regular meetings, or do it as a standalone meeting, like where we agree, but we probably need to have some kind of working session, just like city councils and boards have a study session. We could probably spend some good time just going over some of this stuff as a committee, so that we kind of understand the pros and cons of all these different things, and kind of how they're affected in the field. I mean, you could do a presentation on a bike wiggle map and all this stuff, presentation on bike boxes, or we could do it as a working session, because that's kind of what we're doing right now. Bruce threw out some stuff. Dan said, oh, this, Amber said, we've had to look at this, but that's study session stuff that as a committee, that's one of the things we could do. That means maybe an extra meeting if we can't do it as part of the public meeting, or I would suggest we just carve out the next meeting or two to do something like that, where we look at some of these issues. So when they come up the next time, we'll kind of have an idea, okay, this is how this works in this case, and this is where it has limitations or restrictions. That's just my thought about doing something. So it's, everyone on the committee feels like, we're kind of getting, I'm speaking for myself, but I mean, and I understand I've worked with all of these, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm saying still as a committee, we're kind of tasked with looking at these things and kind of rendering some view or opinion on it. So I think it would be helpful for us to all sit down together and spend some time studying some of the issues and what they are. So when they come up in future meetings and in presentations, we kind of have some background and some idea on, what the pros and cons are. This is my 2 cents.
Yeah, we can meet in the future and talk about pros and cons, but I can present and let you know what kind of things we have to consider. And we do follow the standards when we have to design something. So
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I'm just saying it'd be helpful just so you can like give some examples to the committee of what those things are. You threw some out already. I'm just saying if we're sitting down kind of looking at it, kind of educating the committee together as a whole. That's my point.
Bruce?
Yeah, I just want to second what Michael just said. I think having some kind of a working group is really a great idea. And because it needs to be an interaction, right? So because you know, I think that's a good way to work, and you know we can work off of some kind of a piece of paper. You know, anytime you can get around a piece of paper and draw on it, I just think that's a real beneficial type of thing. And obviously, you know, we do see stuff that are different. You know, you do mention standards, but other people are under the same standards, and we see some different things in other communities. So, you know, it's, you know, like this whole idea of centering sharrows, you know, it was resistance to centering sharrows. And actually, I have a question about that, because there just recently, you guys the maintenance guys, I guess, redid the sharrows that are actually incorrectly placed now on like Redwood and Castro Valley Boulevard. So I doubt that that's grandfathered in, you know, because it was just a few months ago that you guys reinstalled the sharrows, but they don't follow the guidelines. So you're just talking about standards, but the standards changed and they don't follow the new standard. And they had to change the standard because a lot of the public works weren't following the verbiage in the standard, which is still there, about the safety of a left-hand car, you know, basically a left-hand side, cars passing and stuff. So now you have to center the sharrows, and which wasn't the case. I mean, it was the case if you read the verbiage, but they had some minimums. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that would be, you know, I think we definitely should, you know, work together and understand each other, basically. Thank you.
Thanks. Daniel?
Yeah, so I think I can appreciate Michael's frustration. So one of the things this committee has not been very, I guess, you know, participatory is dominated by, you know, a couple of people. Dan Leary, a good engineer, he understands the standards, the requirements, the liabilities, error and omissions, all those things. And it's okay to contribute these things, but at the same time, with a fairly good understanding of the legal standards and the design standards that are driving his designs. Bruce provides excellent suggestions based on his and writing experiences and all that stuff. But we are a bike paid. You know, nobody talks about the pedestrians. We need to make sure pedestrians are included in the discussion. We need to make sure the elderly is included. I know Nita talks about the seniors, but that needs to be incorporated. And we also need to sometimes not get the notion that there are all these things that are happening, you know, but the context is I put something happened, and, you know, somebody's going to sue the county, somebody's going to go after the county, it doesn't matter what. So these are very important elements. So that's why when Amber says we need to follow some of the design standards, and I would hope Dan Leary understand this, is that if we don't meet the standards, the likelihood of losing some of these incidents, despite the who's at fault, is substantial, and taxpayers will shell out millions of dollars to these lawsuits. So we do need to be considering those things. At the same time, I really do encourage you to make it more participatory, have a lot more people provide your opinion and what you think. Otherwise, it will become, and I really, the way I interpret Michael's statement is, you know, it becomes a dialogue between a couple of people. So let's hope that we do that. By the way, when it comes to bulb outs and these various things, one of the number one opposition comes from fire departments, ambulances. They're very adamant. I've had meetings before where they literally are extremely upset with any kind of bulb out that we put out there. So emergency response is one of the consideration for some of these design parameters. It's not, the whole thing does not just revolve around how somebody views the intersection from a bike point of view only. So I really do think everybody needs to speak up so that there is a balanced discussion. There's no need for I or anybody else to truly just dominate the discussion. So I really encourage you, if there's a need for a workshop, like you said, let it be a workshop or whatever it needs to be, but it needs to be a balanced discussion. And this whole notion that people throw at you, accusatory stuff, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, all that stuff, is not advisory, it's controversial. You know, usually those things don't add value. And my suggestion is we have extremely experienced, extremely mature individuals in this panel. You need to speak up. You need to speak up how you feel. And you need to speak up on the diversity of issues that you guys are required to discuss, and not just become a sounding board for other people. So I do appreciate it, but there are a lot more. As the county engineer, I'm responsible to sign every development, whether it's designed by Dan Leary's consultant or it's designed by my own staff. At the end of the day, safety, liability, those various things are extremely essential. And I would hope Dan would agree that, you know, he's not designing something just based on my bike pit master plan. His design standards are not the bike pit master plan. His design standards are governed by different documents. So yeah, I would like to make every facility, bike, pedestrians, cars, safe as possible, but we need to have that broader discussion so that we hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Bruce?
Yeah, I just want to say we do talk about pedestrians, and you know, pretty much this has been a really good meeting that almost everybody has talked in the past. They've had the opportunity and chose not to, so that's their choice. But we do talk about pedestrians. Pedestrian ramps are for pedestrians, so we didn't even mention the benefit of having 2 ramps for cyclists, because there is a benefit. So you know, I do like the idea of a workshop. And in standards, you know, San Mateo has to use the same standards. Menlo Park, they're subject to the same standards, and they do some things differently, and they do some things that are a little better for cyclists. And cycling is more controversial because it takes space from cars. And pedestrians, pedestrians aren't controversial because everybody agrees that people should be able to walk. But not everybody agrees people should be able to cycle. And forcing cyclists to ride in front of cars is not safe. And that's what we're doing in a lot of our designs. So those are just not safe designs. Thanks.
I don't see any additional hands raised from the committee, so I'm going to go to the public attendees. We have Roy. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. I just wanted to support Michael's suggestion on the more frequent meetings and workshop-oriented meetings. I think it would be really good to find ways to engage the members of the BPAC more in discussion, which I think Daniel was alluding to. I think that would be great. And maybe part of that is these sessions where people actually, you know, they're part education, they're part bringing their own ideas, they're part understanding why their ideas sound good but aren't practical to implement. You know, I think that's also fine. But I think the workshop idea could help promote, you know, more discussion that could lead to more engagement in the meetings. I did want to just you know, echo Bruce's comment on the sidewalks. I do think those are brought up. I don't think it's always all about bikes, and many of the suggestions Bruce in particular has made about the double ramps, you know, are about sidewalks and are about pedestrian safety. But if you on the public works side, you know, have projects coming up around sidewalks that you'd like to bring forward. I think at the MAC, you actually presented a list of sidewalk projects that were coming up. There were 6 or 7 on the list. So we'd love to see those come to the BPAC. I don't think other than maybe East 14th or Meekland and Somerset ever came to the BPAC. So there's probably 4 or 5 projects out there, very sidewalk related, that you could bring to the meeting here for additional discussion. But thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all for item number 6. The next item is item 7 on the agenda, which is future agenda items, agenda topics, if anybody has any suggestions. And I think we heard some from you. Oh, Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have on my list Norbridge. So it was the Norbridge project. So of course we just saw that one, but a violation of the Brown Act, but that was one of the things on my list. D Street was another one. I'd also like to talk about level of traffic stress. You know, we took that class, Amber and I took a class on, they talked about, how to design bicycle facilities, and they talked about level of traffic stress, LTS. And they had these maps that was so cool. They showed the LTS, it was an LTS map, and it showed all these islands. It showed these great residential streets that had really low levels of stress, but you couldn't get from that, a group of houses to another group of houses, because in between were these arterials and these feeders. And so I think if we could talk about level of stress, and it would be great if we could make a map of the unincorporated area of level of stress, but we should talk about level of stress for cycling, because even a class 2 on a busy street is very stressful, and that comes out in this analysis. So, even on Norbridge, I'm not convinced that class 2 is going to be something that will encourage people to come out and cycle. And that's what we want to do. We want to shift the mode because we know we need to shift the mode. And then the other one is pedestrian. Again, back to pedestrians. We should talk about pedestrian level of service. So this is something that's different. There was a report on the possibility of a scramble at Redwood and Mabel, and the report was really disappointing. He just talked about the level of service for cars and never once mentioned the level of service for the pedestrian. It was never, ever considered. And so it was all about getting more cars through and not people through that intersection. And so they made some recommendations that were just to get cars through and not to improve the pedestrian, getting the comfort, because it's more than just safety. It's comfort and desirability. You need to get people out of their cars, and you can only do that by making it desirable. So walking and cycling need to be desirable, not just legal. And so, I was just disappointed. We need to look at pedestrian comfort and cycling comfort and service to both. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I see, Roy, you have your hand up, but
yeah, I had one other comment on this, if you forgive me and give me 30 seconds, Amber. It's not quite a suggestion for an agenda item, but I think what would be super helpful is it's practically impossible to find any information about this meeting on the Alameda County Public Works website. It doesn't turn up on your calendar. It's difficult to find, searching for it. I have a very convoluted method of doing that. I have to search on bike ped master plan and then find that, and then find the BPAC and then find the agenda. I'm just wondering, could you make it more visible that the meeting is happening? Because I think, to Daniel's point, it's always the same people. I'm the only ever member of the public that joins this meeting. And I think the reason for that is nobody knows about it because it's not on your calendar. So if you could just publicize it more, I'd love not to be the only speaker. I'd love to hear people speaking from Cherryland and San Lorenzo and, you know, all the other incorporated areas, I think that would be great, but no one seems to, you know, it's just so difficult to find out about this meeting. If you could do anything about the communication side, I think that would also be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I took notes. I got all the suggestions. So the time is now 7:37. Thank you for staying and going over the time allotted for this meeting. The time is now, okay, 7:37. The meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is going to be on June 22nd. Okay, and then we'll send out the agenda before the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.